So recording in progress. That is always what I like to hear and what I need to hear so that you know as well the recording is being done. So this is Lynn Hamilton, your lead instructor over at Samson Properties. And in this session of Marketing Mastery, we take a deep dive every session into the one of the 24 pillars that you are able to execute in the marketing department of your real estate business. So with this one, this is one that's near and dear to my heart, and I'm going to tell you why. I did it for years, and I had it down to a science. So we're going to go ahead and jump right on in, and I'm going to give you the good, bad, and the ugly to do with probate and estate liquidation. So first off, I'm going to give credit where credit is due. You know, I like to do that. When I was a brand new agent 100 years ago, I went to a workshop with Todd Bates called Master Your Marketing. Now, I went to check and track down Todd a couple of years ago, and it broke my heart to find out that he had since passed away. He was way too young, but he is gone. But what he taught me was an absolute game changer in my real estate business. Now, at this seminar that we went to about marketing, there was only a handful of real estate agents or lenders in the audience. They were all from different sales, combinations of product and services. So I listened carefully. I took notes. I coached with him for a while and made sure that I executed out what he provided. And again, it was a game changer. Now, this falls into recession-proof marketing. And why we label it that is when you take a look and ask yourself, what are the 5 things that happen in a person's life that changes the need, not the want, the need for where they're going to live? It is the 5 Ds. It is diploma, diamonds, getting engaged, getting married, diapers, divorce, and death. Those are the 5 Ds as they've been cutely coined and phrased over years. Now, let me ask you a question. Of those 5 things, do those things happen every day? Yes. Every week? Yes. Every month? Yes. Every quarter? Yes. Every year? Yes. Year after year, year after year. That component is recession proof. I don't care what the world is doing. I don't care what the economy is doing. I don't care what the interest rates are doing. Those 5 things happen every day, every week, every month, year after year, regardless. So what I was taught is to pick one of those components and take a deep dive into it. So quite by accident, I landed into working with an attorney who did wills and trusts, but she also did divorces. That's a whole other topic. But from that, I was able to bring not only my own personal experience into estate liquidation to the table, but a compassion that goes with it as well. It is very compassion driven. It is very process orientated. It requires a high trust, a great relationship, and an opportunity to build a component, a marketing pillar of your business that will sustain the test of time. So for those who've been around for a long time, remember years ago when the market skyrocketed up and if you could breathe and fog a mirror, you could get a loan, and then it turned and it crashed? Do you remember that? Nobody told me the market crashed. I totally missed it. Why? I had my recession-proof marketing pillars in place. And this is why we discuss it in Jumpstart Session 4, if you're needing to go back and reference. There are typically 4 tires on a car and typically 4 legs on a chair. That is done for balance and stability. When you are able to build out 2, 3, or 4 tires, legs, pillars to support and sustain the marketing department of your business, you will not have the Zoom eats. It'll be a constant, steady flow. So today we're going to take the dive into probate, do's and don'ts, the tools that we have, what we've created for you, what I've used, and how to contact attorneys, how to reach out to them, what to do, what not to do. And hopefully this will be something that you go, I could do this. Now, it does take a little bit of work. I'm not gonna, fool you to think that you're gonna call an attorney and they're gonna jump at the chance and next thing you got 15 transactions going. Nah, not necessarily how it's going to go. But it will build out and be sustainable. So with that, let's go. All right, so let's talk first about what really probate is and basic some understanding of it. Probate is when someone has passed away, probate has to be done when typically they do not have a trust in place. They may or may not have a will. There is a huge difference from a will and a trust. If there's a will, the will will, state who's going to be the executive trustee, blah, 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 blah. But a trust typically will have the house, which is their biggest investment, in the trust. So it avoids probate, which can cost, again, just guesstimation of numbers, can run anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 to go through probate, and it can take a month or more. So probate is required when there is not the property in the trust. I'm going to be clear on that, because a lot of times people say, oh, I have a will, or there's a will. Okay, that's part one of two parts. This is where we, as real estate agents, if part of our mission is to help them protect and maintain the value of their greatest asset and be a go-to source for them, this is where we are, I'm going to say, dropping the ball just a little bit, because we know what's going to happen when that ugly day comes and the property that they probably love and adore or have been there for a long time is not in a trust. This is where, when we're going to get to the tail end of this conversation, I'm going to bring it back around of how you use the attorneys to build a reciprocal referral relationship. Because you know this, you know what is going to happen, but yet we're sitting and not advising or recommending to our clients that we know are SOI, that have a home, the dangers of it not being in a trust. So we're going to come back to that in a minute. All right. So in understanding probate, there is also, you need to understand that there's the courts are involved, right? Probate court. There are attorneys that specialize in wills, trusts, and probate. There is a timeline on going through probate. Again, it can take 30, 60, 90 days. And most agents don't have a clue, or they avoid it like the plague. But when you are knowledgeable, you can be a great resource as well. All right. So who are the key players involved in a probate? Agents need to be crystal clear on who is the personal representative of the estate or the executor trustee. Who are the heirs? Who is the beneficiary? Who is the probate attorney? The courts, you need your title company involved, which is the cardinal title, and the role of you as the agent. A lot of times people will say, well, I'm their executor, I'm their power of attorney, POA, power of attorney. Okay, you are the POA, when they were alive. The minute the person is deceased, the POA dies with it. A lot of people do not know that. And this is where we get to help educate them on how the business of real estate works. There you go. All right. It is huge to build out a relationship, I'm going to say, with a handful of attorneys. Yes, you can go on and you can buy leads and that are probate. And okay, those are all possibilities out there. But I want to talk about how you connect with an attorney who specializes in probate. Obviously, go into your footprint. We used to jokingly in the olden days say, go to the yellow pages, but you can do that online, obviously. You want to find out who the probate/will trust attorneys are in your footprint. In a full session that I've done, I have, again, it's already available for you, the handouts of the introduction letter, the email, the follow-up with the attorney. What you are looking to develop is a reciprocal referral relationship. In other words, what can they provide to you, but what you can provide to them, the attorney. Number one, because you know people with homes and they understand the legality of having that home in a trust. So you want to be able to work in a reciprocal relationship. They will also know people who have passed that they were either the probate attorney for, or they were the original attorney that helped with the will and the trust. And what you're looking for is the building that relationship with the attorney so that they can refer to you and you can step in and help. Now, I'm going to pause and share a horror story with you because they're good ones. I was working with an attorney in San Diego. Her name was Margaret. She was a small boutique, ran the shop by herself, had her admin, but basically she was a one-stop shop. She wasn't a big brokerage. It wasn't a big, law firm. Those are the good ones to go after. She had contacted me that one of her clients had passed. The executor trustee was a friend of hers that they'd grown up together, and the woman lived in Michigan. So she was into San Diego, obviously devastated over the loss of her friend. I don't know if she knew that she was the power of attorney or the executive trustee or not, but she found out she was. All right. So here she's in another state, another town, not knowing anybody, not knowing where resources are, not knowing where to start, where to turn, what to do, and was frazzled. So Margaret introduced the two of us. I scheduled an appointment to come see her. I'm going to say it was 5 o'clock one late afternoon. I get there to meet her at the home, and we started, casual chit-chatting. And I remember at one point she looked at me and said, so when do you have to list the house? And I looked at her and I said, when you're ready.
I have how are you? This is
Well,
Malik Rashid. I go by Maverick or Rashid.
okay, you're going to need to cut on mute or I'm going to disconnect you. You've just ruined our recording. Okay. So you've gotten through the conversation of the hi, hello. And she looked at me and said, when do you have to list? And I said, when you're ready. There's a lot that needs to be done first. And she started to tear up and to cry. And, again, I'm just assuming she's emotional about losing her friend. And then she proceeds to tell me that she'd had another agent that was referred by a neighbor come over that morning. And at that time, the agent walked in, kind of looked down her nose and said, and I quote, when are you going to get this shit cleaned up so I can sell the house? I can't list it in the shape that it's in. I dropped a jaw. She would never tell me who it was, but I looked at her as she's now sobbing and I said, oh, no, 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 no. We will list it when you're ready. But you know what? Personally, and professionally. I have done this one too many times. I'm going to walk you through this methodically and I'm going to help you. I went later, bought, and then met back with her again in the following day, a tote and some bubble wrap. I said, your first step is you've been a friend of this woman's forever in a lifetime since you were kids. I want you to walk through the house and any knickknack or any item that you think you want to keep as a momentum, put it in the box and wrap it up. Just put a little bubble wrap around it and just put it in the box. Because when we're all done, then you'll look at it again and decide, yes, do I want to keep these items or no, I can let them go. So you go through methodically, room by room, around each room and pick out what you want. Now, from there, I got her half a dozen boxes. We labeled one for shredding. We labeled, I think, two for shredding. And then we had a donate and a trash. I actually went and bought clear and dark trash bags. Anything that went into the dark trash bag was in fact trash. Anything that went into the clear trash bag was for donation. Anything that went into her box of mementos, she got to review later. That helped her at least get started because you're walking into this big house that they've lived in for 40 something years and have no idea where to start. So I kind of tucked her in carefully and we walked her through this. Now, when she got done sobbing on day one, and I told her, oh no, honey, I'm going to walk you through this. She proceeded to tell me about the other agent. Her friend's funeral was that afternoon. And then I came in at 5. She'd had the day from hell. And so I understood the tears, gave her a hug. And, I said, look, no, we're just going to walk through this methodically. I also reminded her of the papers, any legal papers, any bank papers, anything that, looked like the attorney needed to look at it. So I had a box that was labeled attorney to review or review by attorney. She just dumped stuff in there. I got I think I went through the closet and found a Tupperware type plastic container with a lid on it and labeled it keys. So any keys that she happened to find throughout the property, in the desk, the whatever, could go in there. Because at some point, we're going to need to see if they belong to anything, if there was anything locked, if there were safety deposit keys, which have been found. And so all of that, at least I got her set up to be organized. So she was here for about a week and got a lot done. I would come by and, if something needed to go to the trash or to the dumpster, I would take it. Yeah, above and beyond. But you know what? When she reported back to the attorney, it was with an enormous amount of grace and gratitude that I was walking her through this step by step. So in the eyes of I made the attorney look good, but I also made myself look good because I wanted to keep that relationship with that attorney. All right. So yes, you often do end up going above and beyond. Another kind of horror story that comes out, and you'll get into this when you get into the family dynamics, is sometimes the person who has been left the executor trustee, there's a sibling that is not thrilled over it. And they can get snitty, cranky, and belligerent and want to interfere and interrupt and cause problems through the whole thing. I have a friend in another state who has just gone through one that is a nightmare. So again, she, as the real estate agent, may have to go to the attorney with some information that, again, you talk about a mess beyond a mess, and sometimes you get in the middle of some of those things. So you have to be prepared to obviously, handle what comes at you. That's where the PPS comes in handy, but also that compassion side as well. So that's why I say this is, it's a great venue, but it's not right for everyone. Occasionally you do have to have your little shoes on and put a family member in check. Had one time where I knew the wife, her name was Karen. She was not a Karen. Her name was Karen, and her husband, their mother, his mother had passed away. He'd been the caregiver up to the end. So he was the executor trustee, was doing all the things correctly, doing a great job. And his brother got on his little high horse and started yelling at the brother about, you know, making things up and, you know, just, doing his own thing. So I went over to meet them one evening for some paperwork, and they were both pretty upset. And I said, I want the brother's name and the phone number. And I had my notepad out. I said, I want his name and his number. And they said, no, no, no. I said I wanted his name and his number now. And Karen elbowed her husband, said, oh my God, I've never seen her like this. We better give it to her. And we giggled and chuckled, got the brother's name, got the phone number. I said, I'll take care of the brother. Got home that evening and put a call into him and said, look, I understand that you're giving your brother, who is the executor trustee, a rash of you know what over what he is and isn't doing because you think you've got any say in this. And he started in on me. And I said, oh, no, 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 no. You stop right there. I said, your brother, I don't know who has given you bad advice, but your brother has done no such thing. Your brother has a fiduciary responsibility to the court to execute that will and that trust to the letter of the law of what is written by your mother. And that is all he's doing. He has to answer to the court, not to you. And I said, and he started, I said, we're not doing this. I said, he is doing exactly what he needs to be doing. And if you have an issue with this, you need to go take it up with your mother. And I know you know where she's at right about now. Funeral had been 2 days before. Now, I'll be honest, I was a little surprised at myself being that blunt and curt with them, but he was being a first class, you know what, and giving his brother an additional headache and heartache. And I was not going to have it. So I put him in check and I said, no, by the way, you need to call your brother and apologize. He was there caring for your mother when you were God knows where. He was there when she passed. He was there taking care of her after. You come flying in on your broom thinking you're going to dictate how this is going to go. No, that's your brother and you need to apologize. I said, am I clear? Yes, ma'am. I said, perfect. All right. Conversation's done. Move on. So a couple days later, when I had to go back to see them, I said, so anything new and exciting going on? And they proceeded to share that the brother had called and apologized. I said, oh, really? What all do you have to say? And they looked at me and said, Lynn, what did you say to him? I said, oh, nothing. I just set him straight on how this was going to be played out. So he's good now. Right? And they're going, yeah. I said, mission accomplished. And I never did tell them everything that was said because that was between me and the brother. But occasionally, and I share that with you because occasionally you're going to get in the middle of something like that and you've got to be able to put your foot down. So that's where the backbone comes in, and also where the compassion comes in to get them through. All right. So you've got two things that you're building out. You're building out a relationship with the attorney and a reciprocal referral relationship component so that the hope is that you can refer people to the attorney that need a will and trust. And in return, that attorney will give you the opportunity to interview for the position as their attorney and work the process. It is not automatic. It is not given. You still have to earn your keep. So you would still do once that all is done and you are able to meet with the executive trustee, you have a seller consultation with them. You let them know what the process is going to be, and you start on that. You let the attorney handle the legal side, and the legalese side, you never, ever, 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 ever give the client legal advice. That is the attorney's job, not yours. One of the things you will find in dealing with estates like this is often the properties are sold as is, because more often than not, it's elderly. They have not maintained the property well because of illness or just aging. So the property condition may be challenging. The estate needs to be cleared out. Sometimes there's a hoarding situation, and oftentimes there's deferred maintenance. And sometimes there's multiple heirs and emotions that get attached to that as well. It is the attorney's position to let you know who legally has the right to sign the listing agreement. Do not, do not, if you need to wake up, do not ever go with just the person that is claiming they are the heir and want to list. Because oftentimes their lips are moving and they're lying. They do not have the legal right to list, but they think they do. And there you go. You just opened up a can of worms. So there absolutely has to be either the will of the trust presented to you so that you can see who the executor trustee is. I would recommend always find out who the attorney is as well, because you want to communicate with the attorney that you are the real estate agent that's going to be listing the property, and you just want to make sure that everything's moving forward in a smooth, effective manner. They will appreciate that. So oftentimes, again, it's, if it is deferred maintenance and as is, it's just going to be listed that way. There's always somebody looking for a home that they can put some sweat equity into and take it as is. It's just nature of the beast. The contract, here's one thing I want to make sure you guys know. Before taking the listing, you want to make sure that you know from the attorney or the will and trust who is the legal person to do that. Now, at that point, what I always did and would still recommend you do today, you take a copy of that trust will and take it to Cardinal Title here at Sampson or your title company of choice if you're in another footprint, and have the title company look at it to make sure from their standpoint everything is good to proceed forward as well. They can start a title search to make sure there's no liens on the property. The other question here's important. You need to ask how the paperwork needs to be signed, because they would not just sign it John Smith. If they are the executor trustee, oftentimes it is required that they sign it John Smith, executor trustee for the Jeffrey Smith estate. Your attorney and or the title company will tell you exactly how those need to be signed. And what I used to do then, I'd get it, I would double check it, that that's how they want it signed. I would type it out in big font on a piece of paper, and that would be my cheat sheet in my folder. So when I went to them, if they had to do a wet signature on it, or if we were typing it in to do electronic, that it was exactly the way it needed to be. Because the last thing you want to do is to have it all done or in motion and then find out you've been having them sign it wrong. You've got to go back, get egg on your face, and get them all re-signed correctly. So make sure that you have done your due diligence to find out how that paperwork needed to be signed. There you go. That's your aha takeaway. The attorney will let you know if there's court approval, what can be done. Again, typically, if it's got to go through probate, you cannot sell it or list it until such time probate's completed. So again, I'm going to put a disclaimer out there. I'm not giving you legal advice. It may fluctuate from state to state, including the state of confusion. So if you're going to be doing this in a particular state, again, you want to get some additional, you can get certifications as a probate specialist. You do a little homework as well. All right. Or when you meet with the attorneys, come right out and double check and ask. Um, you want to protect your transaction by understanding the legal nuances of the probate sale, how paperwork is signed, who can sign, when, all that kind of stuff. There's nothing worse than taking the listing, getting it into escrow, and then find out that person was not the legal heir to be able to list it. It's happened. And then now you've got a PO'd buyer. You just set them up for to get sued. I mean, it just turns into a you know what. So that's why we throw that out there as a reminder. You are also dealing oftentimes with grief and emotion from the siblings. Sometimes there's fighting going on. Sometimes it becomes a paralysis because the person's having a trouble making the decisions that need to be made. There's family dynamics, all that kind of stuff all rolls into one. You need to learn to lead with compassion while confidently guiding family through this difficult time. What are some other things that we're going to help you to elevate your education on this? Again, you want to have a little bit of understanding of probate and how it works. Sometimes you can create a check sheet of when it goes to court, when the tracking, just kind of all that kind of stuff, so you can monitor it along. But the attorney should be able to be the one to help as well. One of the things, again, you always got to double check is what's coming out of the siblings or the family's mouth is not always correct and accurate. So if their lips are moving, they might be lying. All right. Let me see. I'm kind of referencing my notes here. When you are able to position yourself as a trusted resource during one of life's most sensitive transactions, you will set yourself apart in the eyes of the attorney as well for additional introductions to handle it. You will also hopefully position yourself to be able to get introduced to other attorneys, because what's one of my favorite sayings? Birds of a feather flock together. Attorneys that do wills and trusts and probate, oh my God, do they have their horror stories, but they know other attorneys that do the same. So if you're able to get your foot in the door with at least one, it will eventually build out to another one, another one, another one. Now, they may not come 5 or 10 at a time. There may be one a quarter. There may be one, once or twice a year. That's okay. Take it, do a phenomenal job. Make sure you are using a reciprocal referral mindset and involve the attorney with helping you with the people that that own homes. Now, one of the things that we have done, again, we have a whole separate recording on how to contact the attorney. So you start by making a list of the attorneys in your footprint. Second, we have an email recommendation. We have a letter that can go. Understand, you may need to reach out to that attorney 5, 10, 15, 20 times before they'll say, yes, let's chat. So doing it one and thinking it's a one and done, yeah, probably not going to happen, truth be told. So the consistency without being annoying is going to be a key component, because they want to see that you're going to be consistent. And you got to understand that you may have contacted that attorney when they're up to their eyeballs in the biggest probate mess they have ever dealt with in their career. You are not that important at that moment in time. And so they may blow you off. It's okay. Just touch back. Touch back. Now, also understand that if you are going to offer, and again, it's noted in the letter and the email as well, But if you are going to ask for a meeting with that attorney, you need to be sure that you are being specific, that it is a 15-minute complimentary consultation to determine if the two of you could work a reciprocal referral relationship. Because if you don't, and you just go in with the gimme, 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 I need transactions, I know you got them, they're going to bill you for 15 minutes, 30 minutes of your time. So this is something that you better have prepared, lock, stock, and barrel, rehearsed out, know your time. In fact, I would go as far as setting an alarm. If you know you're going to meet with them at 10, I would set an alarm on my phone at 10:15 to go off. I would then sit down with them and say, I'm going to leave my phone out. I've set an alarm. I promised you 15 minutes. I know your time is valuable. So is mine. I'm going to cut right to the point, but I don't want to overstay my welcome. Oh, baby, they're going to appreciate that. So you set your alarm already. You set your phone down so you can hear it. And then you have that conversation with them that what you are looking for is to build a reciprocal referral relationship, because this is one of the specialties that you have is estate liquidation after a death. But in the same token, you are looking for an attorney or two or three that you can refer your SOI over to have their wills and trusts completed and updated, because you know darn good and well that most of them do not. There you go. All right. Now, here's how you will razzle and dazzle them, that attorney, once you go in. We have in our handouts, this one got wrinkled in my coat. We have a 1-page that you would leave with the attorney. And guess what we did with it? It is the Estate Liquidator's Companion and the ever so popular, Where Did Grandma Hide It? That is your golden ticket in the door, because part of what you get to help bring value is you're going to help the estate liquidator, the executor trustee, look for things that are probably hidden in the house. You have already done your homework and you have this packet to be able to share. Now, you do not leave the package with the attorney, because you don't want them taking it and copying it and then running with it. The 1 page that goes to the attorney is the basic information, and then it starts fading down. It's been color gradiated down from the black to the gray to the lighter gray to the lighter gray to the can't read it anymore. So it's a tease. It lets the attorney see what you've got. You can tell them that you have an 18-page, or however this turns out, booklet that you will be providing to the clientele, and you will co-brand it with your information and their information on it, so the client knows it's coming from both of you. Because your underlining job is to make that attorney look good, and their egos are going to buy it up. So that's the takeaway on that. Now, this Estate Liquidator's Companion talks about, obviously, executors, trustees are often at a loss. It's kind of an opening little, short, sweet, to the point letter from you, signed. Next thing over, information about, your bio briefly, and about Samson. Again, they want to know if there's, a good brokerage to go to, items to consider. It's got a list of stuff in here. Next page over is The Struggle is Real. It talks about, who's the next of kin, death certificates, all that kind of stuff. A lot of this, or I'm not going to say a lot, some of this information is kind of after the fact, but it shows that you've done your homework. Information that's going to be needed for the death certificate. By the time you get involved, 99.9% of the time, the death certificate is already completed and done, but it leaves that impression that you've got a complete package here. The next page over is common terms. Again, this would be the package that would be going to the executor trustee that you can talk to them about. What is TOD, POD, POA, last will and testament, living trust, financial power of attorney, durable power of attorney, DNR. It shows that you know what this lingo is in the legal world. Because again, if you sit down with the attorney, they're going to throw it back at you, and you don't want to sit there and go, I'm sorry, what's a TOD? Transfer on death, by the way, in case you need to know that. So again, you're up to speed on the lingo as well, because the executor trustee is going to be hearing this lingo as well. The difference between a CMA and an appraisal, again, tips on that, tips on proper disposal of medication. And then it goes into other things that need to be disposed of. And it goes into the ever so popular, where did grandma hide it? And it's a couple of pages of where grandma might have left or hidden stuff. Oftentimes, near end of life, they're often are over medicated. They may have some memory loss. They may be hiding stuff in the house without even realize they're doing it. So it gives a whole list here of where to look for hidden stuff, and they love it. It also gives them a reminder to look at like PayPal, Venmo, unused gift cards, offshore accounts. It gives them a recommendation of not stopping mail, forwarding it. It goes into where did grandma hide it? There's more stuff on here. It's kind of fun. It's kind of cool. And then there's a where to start under and sharing with them that there are 4 basic tiers of disposing of personal belongings. There's auction houses, contingency shops. This may also include pawn shops, yard sales, donations to thrift stores or pet centers, disposal through recycling or trash. So again, this is information that's going to help your executor trustee who's got to go through stuff, especially if they're not familiar with the footprint. Now, it goes through, again, several pages of all of this. Here's the additional takeaway for you, the agent. Not only will you track down and find the attorneys in your footprint, but you will also start being familiar, using this as a guide, of who do I need to stop in and check with? Because we made a recommendation in here of auction houses or consignment shops. Who is in your footprint that are consignment shops or auction houses? Put your name badge on, get all dressed up, and go in there and meet them. So you are meeting these additional vendors to say, hey, I'm real estate agent in the footprint. I handle a bit of estate liquidation. I'm looking to build out my go-to sources and my resources that I can refer the clients to. I obviously auction house. Tell me a little bit about your business, how it works, blah, 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 to see if you're a good match to add their business onto your roster, which would be this handout. I would go into pawn shops and I would find out, again, same introduction, name badge on. I'd always leave a little, goodie something and a newsletter and a couple of business cards. And I'd say, okay, so I'm putting together my go-to resource roster for those that I help with estate liquidation. I see from your pawn shop, you got a lot of jewelry. Is that your primary expertise? I'm going to tell you yes or no. If it's some specialize in musical instruments, some specialize in tools and yard stuff, look at what they carry and then kind of reference that in your notes. Now, these vendors for liquidation become part of your transaction partner / service providers in your database. And you can list them as estate liquidation. Because when the time comes that you need to have it, first off, you should have their business card added to your resources here. But you then make sure that you also add them to your newsletter distribution, that you stop back in every quarter to check in, check up, say hi, because they may become a reciprocal referral relationship partner for you as well. There you go. And yes, it has happened. Doesn't happen every day, but when it does, it's a nice, sweet thing. All right. So you've built out the auction house, the consignment shops, the pawn shops, who the local thrift stores are around. If there's any veteran related ones, because some people are more prone for that than another. Are the local pet centers? Is there a animal shelter in the footprint? And what do they need? Towels. Towels and sheets are typically something that do not get sold at a yard sale or an estate sale. However, your animal shelters will typically take them in a heartbeat. Blankets as well, sometimes even pillows. So find out from your local pet center what they need. So when the time comes that you're helping a client with a liquidation, you know who can benefit from the stuff that is getting ready to be removed from the property. There you go. And guess what? The people in the animal shelter may need a bigger house because they want to take on more animals at their home for pet adoption or for, yeah. So name badge on. There you go. All right. That is where you get to, again, have the attorneys as the reciprocal referral relationship, but also those vendors that may need that you can do as well. Now, in this also where to start, it goes into documents. I'm just going to read you the highlights of the categories. We discussed documents in there. We discussed keys. We discussed medicine, clothes, purses, even shoes, loose change, guns and ammunition, furniture, fire, what to do with fire extinguishers, hazardous materials, old paint, etc. in the house, jewelry. Jewelry, is it a diamond or is it a summer diamond? Is it costume jewelry or is it high-end costume jewelry? You don't know. You don't know if it's a 50-cent vase or a $500 vase. That is where your resources will be able to help. But jewelry, is it real or not? Sometimes it's hard to tell, but a lot of times a local pawn shop or jeweler will allow you to bring things in to say real, not real, real, not real. Okay. Pawn shops, vehicles, fine art, collectible and china, local charities, military medals and flags, what to do with them. If you find any DAR or SAR, Daughters of the American Revolution or Sons of the American Revolution, what to do with those. Law enforcement, badges, old uniforms, patches. There is, again, an absolute protected protocol for disposing of those. If you find a notary logbook, what to do with that? It's got to be returned to the court or the commissioner's office. So you can't just dump those. So by having this information for the executive trustee, they know what to look for as they're going through. Find out who the local or where the local shredding company is. Auction houses, decluttering and trash removal. Who are your go-to sources when that point is needed? You want to also have them looking for books and especially family Bibles, because oftentimes family Bibles will have stuff tucked away in it. You want to make sure that they're kind of checking it to see what's in it. Email and other accounts and other places to search. There's a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 places that the executive trustee probably has not even thought about, that they can go online, put the deceased person's name in to see if there's any money owed to them as well. All right, the last page is other resources. We've just referenced in there some grieving and grief options, and then a couple of other tidbits of information, and that completes the package. This is the tool that will help you get your foot in the door and build that relationship with the attorneys, be able to build that relationship with the family. There you go. And you stand out. You are looking for, I'm going to repeat it again, that reciprocal referral relationship. Boom. There you go. Now, I'm going to close out with one other story of how me knowing this stuff paid off. Client lived in Texas, parents lived in San Diego, mom passed away. Dad decided that he was going to put the Christmas lights up because mom would have wanted them, even though she was now gone. And he got on the ladder and fell. Never woke up. So the son from Texas was the executive trustee, came from my attorney source, and he would come out basically once a month and I'd meet with him. And so when I first met with him, I quickly found out because the attorney told me why the other brother that lived locally was not the executor. Family drama. I got updated on it. So I'm working with a brother from Texas. I go to the house. The brother who is local is now taking all mom's stuff and dad's stuff and just throw it in bags and is going to donate it to charity. And I went to Stephen and I said, okay, time out. First off, a lot of times there's money and keys and stuff stuffed in that stuff. So, and I told him, I said, look, Margaret briefed me on what I needed to know. I'm just going to say, be very careful. And I would encourage you once he's gone is to go through this stuff before it gets pitched or dumped out. Okay. In my list of where did grandma hide it? I also gave him a list of places to look for money because 9 times out of 10, there's money stuffed away somewhere. So great. He's looking, he's doing this thing. Every time he came to town, he'd let me know. I'd check in on him, yada, yada, make sure all was good. And I'll fast forward a couple of months and he's back in town. We meet at Margaret's office and he pulled out of his briefcase a stack of money and puts it on the desk and says, does it matter which account this goes into? Margaret, the attorney, gets like, oh, where'd that come from? Look on her face and looks at it and looks at him and looks at it and looks at me. I just kind of smile. And she goes, where did this come from? And he says, oh, Lynn told me places to look where they probably had hidden money. And this is what I found. I smile. She grins. And she says, it didn't matter which account it went to because he was, in charge of it all. I said, cool. So can I ask, how much is there? Over $5,000. I turned to Mark and I said, cool, he's buying lunch and we're not doing the 99-cent, senior specials. And of course, we all giggled because every time he did come to town, yes, he would always take Margaret and I to lunch. And he was, very much of a gentleman. And it was just a good joke because we were able to have that type of rapport back and forth with each other. But if Margaret did not trust me at that point, I sure in the heck won her over 100%, hands down, no questions asked. I worked with her for several years until she started phasing out and retiring. We did divorces as well. That's another drinking game all in itself. But this is how you take the marketing department of your business, identify recession-proof components, have one of your pillars in that recession-proof field, and build it out. Yes, as I said up front, it is going to take a little bit of work. But once you've got it done, you will be amazed at the trickle down that starts coming from it. You do have to have compassion. You do have to have a backbone when you have that brother or sibling that's wanting to cause a ruckus. But it is a very rewarding component of your business. And this is where, again, I've had to do it with siblings and family members who had passed. So that's where I was able to say, personally and professionally, I've done this one too many times. And I'm going to hand carry them through this process from start to finish. I am never going to go to a client and say, when are you going to get your shit out of here so I can list the house? Because that was the most cruel thing I ever heard come out of an agent's mouth. And again, she would never tell me who it was because I'd have had a conversation or at least a few words with that agent, but she would never tell me who it was. It took a couple months in that scenario. We got the house cleaned out. We listed it, got it sold, and everything was able to, turn out okay at the end, as they always did. But that is how you can do it. Now, let me give you one other bonus before we log off on time. To build out, yes, this packet, which is the fine tuning is being done right now as of this day, beginning of March in 2026. It is going to go into our, it's going to be, I'm going to put it on my site. I'm also going to put the link to it in resources in Samson Cardinal Nest. For those that are not with Cardinal that want it, that are on, I email me and I will email it to you if you're going to go this route. Now, what I also did was I would call my SOI and say, hey, I'm working on a project and I really need your help. Because again, aren't we supposed to touch base with them every once in a while? And we never know what to say and we feel like we're bugging them because we typically are. I would go, hey, I'm working on a project and I need your help. As you can imagine, I'm often asked to help with estate liquidation. So here's my question. Have you ever had to help clean out someone's stuff after a loss? And usually they say yes, because they have almost everybody has. Great. Where did you find what hidden? So I can add that to my list of where did grandma hide it? And I would be ready to write. Now, if they were driving or if they were at work or whatever, I would text and email them. Hey, working on a project, need your help. And sometimes I'd leave the message. Working on a project, I need your help. As you can imagine, I'm often asked to help with estate liquidation. Where did grandma hide it? If you ever had to clean out an estate, where was what hidden? Email me back, text me back at your convenience. I want to be able to add this, no name included, but where was what found? Oh my word, I got some great stuff. That is what's going to help you add to that list of where did grandma hide it. Now, here's the other beauty of that. They now know this is a specialty that you have. They may even say, oh, my aunt's an attorney that does estate. Oh my God, I'd love to meet her. I'd love to find out if we could do reciprocal business together because I've got a lot of people that have homes that are not in a trust. And I know what is going to happen when that day comes. I want to send business their direction. They're going to give you that contact. Can I mention your name when I call them? Oh, absolutely. Now you've got your foot in the door with an attorney. You're building out the list. Your SOI becomes a valuable because they now know that you're the go-to source for any and all of this. And it starts to take on a snowball life of its own. Does that make sense? Give me a thumbs up. Okay. Again, this has been for years one of the backbones of my business. And again, I'm going to thank Todd, bless his heart, and may he be resting in peace. This, all these years later, has helped my business sustain through times of crazy markets. So I never felt the crunch and the punch. It takes a special person to have the backbone to stand up if it needs to be, and the compassion to give the hug if it needs to be. I will make sure that if anybody needs this, you've got quick access to it. I have it in a Word document. I'm also putting it into Canva, so you can download it from either direction and customize it to your heart's content. But the basic information is there to run with. I'm going to say thank you for your time in learning about this phenomenal component of our business that most agents do not understand how to utilize it to their benefit. They're just looking for a gimme, 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 gimme. This is a reciprocal referral relationship. And you want to be able to say, hey, Mr. Ms. Attorney, okay, I would like to feature you as my vendor of the month when I email out my entire database. What are the 2 or 3 common mistakes and misconceptions about wills and trusts? Because I know a lot of the people that I know in my database, in my sphere, own a home, but don't have a will or a trust. And I know, as you do, Ms. Attorney, what's going to happen when that day comes. How can I give them some information and then give your contact information to them. And oh, by the way, if they came through me and mentioned my name, would you be willing to offer them a small stipend or discount off a will or trust package? They will usually do that till the cows come home. Oh, fantastic. That would be great. Okay, so confirm it by email and then include that in the email. You can trade out an article in one of the newsletters as well. You can have it as a feature on your website. The possibilities are endless because it goes back to my job as your agent, your go-to source is to help you protect and maintain the value of your greatest asset, which is your home. And when that day comes that we're all going to face at some point in time, I want to make sure that whoever you're leaving your estate to isn't burdened by having to go through probate. And again, find out in your neighborhood, your neck of the woods, your footprint, what it costs for something to go through probate. That becomes a large talking point, and you can reach out to your SOI with it. Okay. All right. I don't care what you know. I want to know what you're doing with what you know. Let me know if this has been valuable. I see some comments pop up in the chat box. I am so glad you have taken the time to be with me this afternoon, to listen to this, to go through it, to understand. Thank you for your sweet words in the comments. I appreciate it big time. I am here for you. I love you as well. And again, my job is to help make you a better agent and be the Uncola. Stand out from the crowd and do what other agents, yes, I'm going to say it, are too lazy to do. Go be wonderful. Go be awesome. I'll see you in the next class. I'll post this shortly along with all the support documents that need to go with it. All right, my friends. See you soon. Bye for now.